I'm Brandy, and this is Making It My Own DIYs. Welcome. We're going to use some Tite Bond Quick and Thick, a little block we're going to use for support, little miniature haystacks and little miniatures of whatever sort you might want to use. We'll use moss, a little bit of foam mushrooms, some flowers from my stash. I'll use 2 of these ribbons. And these are some paper cutouts from a Carnival pack that I have been crafting from and loving recently. These are the ones that I chose for this set. I have done a project already with some more pieces, and I have one more project to do with these. This is a cheese box that I thrifted, but you can use a round gift box if you would like. Here are my measurements, just for your information. Where the bottom overlaps is going to allow a flat spot to make a base. If you're using a box, you might not have this, but you can make your own support using a wood block. Just going to use some long-lasting glue with a little quick drying hot glue. It's going to hold that in place until I get a strong seal with the permanent. I'm going to use some pieces that I have thrifted. I use these as supports to add dimension to my projects, and I thought this would be a good place to use it to help give me support on the bottom of my box to keep it from rolling. I'll use a little bit of this, same process, hot glue and a little bit of that Tite Bond to go on the bottom. I would like to thank my friend Kendra from Late Night Creations because she's the one who introduced me to this glue, and it is wonderful. She uses it, she recommends it, I love it. I'll use some of this ribbon that I got on clearance, and I will use enough to wrap around the box and glue it in place. If you want to paint your box, you can do that. If you want to use gift wrapped on your box, if you want to use stain or whatever you want to use on your box is totally fine. I'm going to use the bottom as my starting place, and I'll cover up everything with this ribbon. So I think this is like a 2-inch ribbon probably, and it is wired, but the wire doesn't really matter in this project, so it's totally up to you. Now, sometimes at Christmas time, you can get these cheese boxes as like the base for gift sets, like that have bath bombs or the ones that have meats and cheeses. So just consider, what you might already have in your stash that you can use, because it's really important with us living on a budget that we still have nice things that we can create and craft with, but we don't have to spend a lot of money, right? We don't want to put ourselves out of a house and electricity and stuff like that. So once we get the bottom established, I'm going to roll this back over on itself and hot glue it in place. This is just going to give it a nice flat, even seam, and we won't have any of those little strays coming out and, making a mess on the bottom. Right around the inside, I'm going to go around with a little hot glue and just press that down. I do have a finger protector on, and I do recommend that when you're using hot glue, you do try to protect your hands as much as possible because they can burn worse than you would think. They are really, really hot. Even on a cool temperature, you can still be burned, so just be very careful. I'm just going to keep going along and just wrapping this over the edge. This happened to work for me, but if you have a box and your ribbon fits perfectly, you won't need to do this step. If your ribbon is not big enough to do this step, you can take a permanent marker and color it, or a paintbrush and a little bit of black paint. I love the cream and white. I think it's going to be good with this Carnival theme, and I think it matches nicely to what we have going on in our cutouts. I'll use my satin ribbon, which is smaller, maybe 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to put it down. A little hot glue, same process. We'll start on the bottom. Starting on the bottom will allow your seams to land on the bottom, and you won't see anything on the top. It'll be nice and neat. Just going to add a little glue at a time. Press it into place. Again, protect your fingers. I'm not a very good example on this particular day. I was so excited about the project that I just threw caution to the wind. You know how it is sometimes. Pressing it down, rolling around, and I go. You can certainly use your Tite Bond here if you would like, but it's really not needed to have a very strong hold. When it comes to fabric on wood, My experience is that hot glue will do the trick. I'll press that into place. I've had people ask me too what type of hot glue I use. I prefer to use Gorilla Glue, and I just use the Gorilla Glue sticks. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I have a large variety of viewers here, and lots of people are viewers but not subscribed. So check to see that you're subscribed so you don't, and hit the little notification bell, of course, so that you don't miss whenever I put up new material. I would also love a comment if you would like to leave one. Big thank you to my channel members whose contribution helps me with coffee and business. We appreciate it. Now, instead of painting the inside, I've decided to use a little bit of scrapbook paper, and it's just cream and black, and it is in polka dots. And I'm going to cut this out. You can put your box right on top of your paper, use a pencil, trace it out, cut it just inside of your trace line, and it should give you a fairly good fit on the inside of your box. And then you can just trim up where you need to. Using a little bit of black chalk paint that was already on a brush from another project, I'm going to go right on that inside because it's really hard with a piece like this to get exact measurements. So I did the best I could, but there are still a couple of places where you could see the wood underneath, and I don't want that peeking through. So I'm going to cover it up a little bit. What do you think about the combination with the plaid and the polka dots? I really like that. I painted the back of my box black. And now I'm going to use the ribbon on the inside as well. So we are essentially sealing this box in this plaid ribbon. I'm going to again use the bottom as my starting place because that's where I also want it to end. Don't want to see that seam anywhere. I'll push that edge to the back of the box, and then with little strips of glue here and there, working fairly quickly, I am going to press this into place. I kind of roll it with my hand and press, roll and press, roll, and because you want to sort of flatten it out so you don't have wrinkles and you don't have spaces that are not attached to the box. Hot glue, again, works great for this, but you're welcome to put this in any way that you like. If you want to use your Type Bond or your glue or whatever you have, whatever type of adhesive you want to use, or double stick tape, whatever you're using for your particular needs, this will work. Also, if you want to use strips of scrapbook paper, you can do that as well. Press, press, press until we get back to our point. You can trim that off and glue your edges down. Now I'm going to go around the inside with my glue, right around the lip, and press this into place. Right where the edge of my box is and the edge of my ribbon lies. It just so happens that the measurements were really close, really tight in this project so that everything lined up nicely. It was like kismet this day. It was wonderful. Don't you love a good creative, crafty flow day? I love them. And I was in the flow in this project. It's something about those paper cutouts that really got me inspired with these projects. Again, I will be doing one more. I've already done one that I will link. And I hope you enjoy them as much as I do because I love a good vintage project. For any holiday or any time of year, really. Vintage inspired. It's not precise. I'm just going to press this into place. You can use hot glue around the edge and put it in place if you want to, but I just like to give you options. I'm going to use my little smoother here, my little tool, and I'm going to press this in place. You can use a credit card or whatever you would like to use to flatten yours out. You're not really going to see it under a pattern paper, but it holds it great. Now our box is all sealed with our ribbons and our paper, and we can move on to the inside if we would like. Using black or antiquing wax, we're going to go around the edges of these paper cutouts because they are a white on the edge. They're like punched out or cut out of paper, and paper is generally white. So I don't want my edges to be white. I want my edges to look a little more aged. Totally up to you whether or not you do this. Do you see the difference that it makes? I usually use antiquing wax for this, but for this project, I wanted to give you an example of how you can do it with paint. Just adding a little bit, dabbing a little bit off there. If you're wondering why I have that ribbon round over there, these make really good templates if you're cutting out random size circles. So you can take your leftover spools when your ribbon is gone and pull those circles off, and you can use them again. And you can also use the inside of those spools, the little round sections, in other projects. And I have done that before too. So we're talking about recycling and milking every cent out of your dollar. It's really important these days, isn't it? Okay, going around, making sure everything looks good. You can see the difference. I can see it. It's subtle, but I really like it. And then we're going to do the same thing with the little girls that I chose. I chose 2 little girls who were trick-or-treaters. Very, very cute. They're excited. They're very Victorian and vintage looking. I'm going to go around all those edges. Now, if you have a piece like this that's intricate, go ahead and grab a paintbrush and just take most of the paint back off and go over those sections. You can also use a paint marker or a fine tip Sharpie and go in all those sections if you would like. It's going to be totally your choice and what's going to work for what you have. Now, at one point, these sold out. I'm going to double check and see if they have any more. If they do have more, I'm going to link it. If they have something similar but not these, I will link that as well for you. I'll take it's like a little fake off-brand Target Jenga block. Jenga? Really? Ginger block? And put a little glue on it to give us a little bit of lift. We want to have a little bit of support on there and a little bit of dimension. If you want to put everything flat, you totally can, but I love the shadows that are created by giving a little bit of lift. It just looks a little more natural to me. Optional, of course, is going to be moss. Now, I have these moss mats that came from Temu. You can definitely use the moss that you get from Dollar Tree and just use a little bit of glue and put it down. You might not want to use hot glue because you could possibly burn the fingerprints off your hand. So I suggest that maybe you want to use a little bit of your Titebond if that's what you're using, or whatever type of a thick adhesive you have, and just press it into there. This is going to create a little bit of a hill or a yard or garden for the little girls to stand in. It's also going to create a support for them and anything else that we decide to use to decorate the inside of this box. I have not bought anything new recently. It's been about a month since I've been in Dollar Tree, and I know that prices are going up, so just be very, very careful about trying to look back through your stash and see what you have and think about maybe something that you could take apart, and maybe you don't love it as much as you used to, and now you want to give it new life, and this is the perfect time to do it. I'll add some hot glue in here once I decide where I want my girls to go, and then press her legs into that. Notice she's not flat on there. She's about 1 inch away from the house. I'm going to use just this little block. This little haystack happens to be the perfect dimension to hold this in place until she dries in place. And then I'll add the other little girl. I'm going to add her closer to the edge. So we have little step backs from the front to the back, or from the back to the front. So the house is at the deepest depth, and then the first little girl is a little bit closer to the front, and then this little girl is the very closest to the opening of the box. Gives you a lot to look at. You can also add lights in your projects if you would like. I do a lot of lighted projects, but in this one I decided to leave it alone and let you decide how you would like to do it yourself. So I used a block on this one behind the pumpkin to hold that in place, and you can paint that black if you would like. You don't have to, but black does help it sort of disappear into the distance. And then I'll take my little bats, and they're so intricate that I'm going to have to use a pen on those to shade them. And I'll use this, this is like a glass marker, I think, y'all. And I'm going to color this and let this dry to be the support for this little bat. And you can also use these types of pens to color on there to give you some shading when you have really intricate pieces. Once it's dry, I'm going to use some hot glue. I'll just turn that one sideways and see how I'm doing here to cover up the white on this one. And the 2 bats that I'm using are 2 different style bats. This one is a little more of a Gothic look, and the other one looks a little more lifelike. But it is mixed media, so we're going to do it a bunch of different ways, aren't we? I'm going to press that into place and then decide where I want to put this little bat. And I thought maybe right here on the outside of the box would be a good spot for her. Thank you so much for coming by my channel, for supporting me, for helping my channel to grow. My goal is 100,000 subscribers by Halloween, and if you could help me do that, it would be wonderful. Most of my viewers are not subscribed, so, stick around if you would like. I enjoy having you here. We have a great time in the comments. Everybody generally is kind and helpful and supportive, so I would love to have you here. It's one huge making it my own family. These little pieces also came from Dollar Tree. They're called moss rocks or moss stones. They have foam on the inside, so they're easy to cut down to whatever size you like. Adds a little bit of kind of variety to the moss. I'm going to press that in place right on top of that moss. We're mixing it up. I like the look of it. Now I've got some Temu branches in black and brown, and I also have some I've recycled from other projects and found at the thrift store. These pieces can be cut down. They're partially wired, and then the outer branches, or the pieces that come away from it, are plastic, so they can actually be cut, with scissors if you wanted to cut them with scissors, the smaller pieces. And that way you can really stretch it and use, on smaller projects like this, one branch for the whole project. I'll trim it down into whatever sizes, that I like for my piece and whatever looks right, and I encourage you to do the same thing. If you don't have these pieces, you can always go get some sticks from the yard, right? That's the easiest way and most affordable way that you could possibly do it. Just grab some sticks from the yard and really make this one your own. I press the stem down into the moss. It helps stabilize it, and the glue holds it in place. To give some dimension to the flat branches there, there's my big head. I'm going to add a little hot glue, turn one to the side, right where the tree forks, and then support it. Just got my little utility knife in there to hold it in place until the glue dries. While I go on to the next piece, decide where I want that one. And then I add some glue and press it down into the moss. If you need to add a little bit of glue, if you're going to have something extending over the outside, you can add a little bit of glue to the ends of the branches and stick them to the outside of your box. And then I decided I really wanted one back behind that tree. So since it's not on there flat and it's lifted away from the box, I had plenty of room to poke that little stem down in there. So out of my little bucket of thrifted and recycled pieces, and leftovers, of course, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue, and we'll use these again. I thought that the yellow would be nice for fall, so it also mimics a little bit of what's going on in that house in the little girl's dress, that little golden kind of orangey yellow dress that she's wearing. And then I'll add these in the background, just, wherever you like them. Doesn't have to be symmetrical, and you could use one piece if all you have is one. If you've got little pumpkins you want to use, you could certainly do that too, but the little girls are holding their jack-o'-lanterns up, so I didn't put any pumpkins in here. I'll take these little picks that I got from, I think I got them from Dollar Tree. I've used them before and pulled these out of another project, but they're just painted over. They're like the little Easter mushrooms, and I just painted them brown and cream to look a little more realistic in my last project. So pulled them out, and I'm using them again for this project. Be sure you add a little hot glue once you decide where you want it to stay, where you want those mushrooms to grow and live. This came from a set from Dollar Tree, the little garden gnome section. Yeah, it was in a little thing with some gnomes. I'm going to use that right in the front. And then this came off of a thrifted piece that I think it was like a Target wreath set, like a flat wreath set. I don't know. But it came with these little felt pieces. And there's like a pumpkin and a ghost. And I thought that the words would look really good with the coloring and the style of this project. So I just put the ink on the outside and glued it in place. I like to make my projects my own, and I encourage you to do the same thing. It doesn't have to be cookie cutter to everybody else's things, right? And I don't think what I do is normal crafting. I think it's a little more outside of the box. That's how I like it. That's how I want it to be for you guys. I really, crafting has made such a big difference in my life and how I feel about myself and my confidence. And I want you guys to feel that too. You know, you guys and gals, I want you to feel that too. I want you to feel that sense of accomplishment and really love something that you make that nobody else has. You know, you're the only one who's going to have that piece. I hope that you like this one as much as me. Again, I've already done one project, which I will link for you, with cutouts out of the same pack, and I have enough to do one more project. So be sure you hit that notification bell once you've subscribed so you don't miss anything when I put it up on my channel. I've got lots of Halloween. I've been doing Halloween projects since the summer. The Halloween has been more popular than the fall that I've done, and so I'm going to continue to do that because it seems like that's what you want to see. I want to give you what you want. Okay, so you can find these little signs, something like this, at Dollar Tree. I've had mine since last year. Here's another little sign, maybe from Dollar General, just something small. This is the inspiration for the video, these Carnival Night Party Halloween little paper cutouts, and I did get these from Temu. Temu. I've been corrected so many times, but anyway, they're really cute, and that's what I'm going to use. And then I'm going to be using some scrapbook paper, and these are just a variety of ones that I picked out of a box that look similar to the theme, I think, for Halloween and for this vintage kind of carnival look. So just to give you an idea, here is the box. This is a spell book box that I picked up a couple of years ago, probably from Goodwill when I was out thrifting. And I decided it doesn't work right now. Didn't want to replace batteries. It just looks like a treat box. But we're going to use it to make some light up decor. So it is from Hallmark. Very nice. It's flat on the back and it does have some raised areas on the front. I won't be working on the front of this book. I think it's cute the way it is, so I'm going to leave it just like this. I will start by removing the battery pack, and I assume it screams or makes some type of a festive Halloween noise when you open it up generally. But it's just in a little recessed area that's cut out of the paper, so I'm just going to pry it out a little bit. And then it looks like it was just really glued down there with some little tacky strips. I'll just put that aside, or we can chunk it. And there's already an area here for us, so we're going to leave just like this to put our new lights into. So there are all kinds of string lights that you can get. I prefer these. I get them from Temu. They have 3 different settings on them, and I do have those linked in the description box of almost every video. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Go and get whatever type of little string lights you want, as long as they're long enough to go around the entire inside of whatever box that you were using. And you can see that they're both yellow lights. They're not that bright white look. They're a very warm color. So you can use whatever kind you like. The other one there is just like a cork type that you put in a bottle. I'm going to give it a good dusting and cleaning and brushing, whatever you need to do to get your surface clean. All right, and then to choose whatever type of paper. Now I lucked up with the paper being almost exactly the same size as the box. Love it when that happens. So I'm getting ideas of how I want to put these papers out in here to cover what's already down there. If you don't have scrapbook paper, you can use wrapping paper. You can maybe paint it. You could use it the same color. You could cover it in a little bit of fabric. I'm just looking here to decide which one I really like because I went through that pack of cutouts and chose 3 different houses that I want to use, and then I have another one left over for another project, so be sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything when it comes out. So I thought, in order to not take away from all the beauty and the details of those cutouts, that I would just use a solid, sort of a rusty orange color on the inside. I'm just going to place it down in here, and I'm going to snug it up into the corners and onto the side there, holding it in place. And then I'll just take my fingernails and crease it on the side. And this is my little squeegee. You can do this with a credit card or with the side of your ruler, whatever works for you. All I'm doing is making a nice crisp crease in there. It is going to remind us of our placement when we decide to glue it in place, and then it is also going to lay nice and flat. So I can either overlap it or cut it off where it goes over onto the front inside cover. I think I'm going to leave it, and we're just going to work with it as it is. So again, creased it with my hand, nothing extremely mathematical going on here, no algebraic equations. We can do that here on this channel, can't we? Yes, we can. So I've decided to use Titebond because it is very, very thick. When you use Mod Podge, it's a little bit thinner and it can cause some bubbling. And I've not had that trouble with the Titebond. It's very, very thick. So I'm just going to go along on the outside areas where the glue and the paper are going to meet in the corners to make it nice and flat. It's really not necessary to go across the inside of it. This will hold it in place as it is. So carefully going to drop that back down. If y'all hear any crackling, my boyfriend's dog is here with us this week, and I bought him a couple of little toys, and they're crackly toys, and he's playing with them right now, so he's very happy. He's on the couch in the other room while I toil away in here and work. Not a care in the world. You know how pups are. Okay, so then I'm going to just press it down with my fingers, and you can also use a squeegee here to do that. And clean up any glue that comes out, although I have to say that this glue, this Titebond, does turn clear, so you won't have to worry about white gunk on there. To finish off the edge where I folded it over, I went ahead and added a little bit of hot glue and then quickly worked to push that down into the glue. This is just a little more of me doing that little cleanup. This is a little sanding stick. It's got a sander on one end. It's almost like that you would use to clean up your fingernails. It works really well to clean up in tight spots and corners where you can't reach normally. So far, so good. I'm liking this. And, you know, if y'all have other ways of doing this and other ways you would prefer to do it, go ahead and do it that way. I don't do, book covering and resurfacing for a living. This is just something that comes out of my head, and I feel like it's the easiest route, and so I like to share those tips with y'all. But I'm never talking down to you or being condescending. So for the few of you who chose to make ugly comments on the last video or so, it really wasn't necessary, but you didn't take my joy, so I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay, next I'm going to choose something to go on the inside cover, and I decided to use this really pretty checked paper. It's sort of a brownish rusty color with black. Again, it looks really good to me with the coloring of the cutouts that I used. I think it's going to be really nice. But you use whatever kind, like I said. And then if you find, if you don't have this book, what do you do? Okay, I don't have one of these books. What about those storage boxes that have the flap on them that you can get from Dollar General and Family Dollar and any pretty much craft store to store your photographs? Something like that would be really good. And then you could just decorate the outside too. Right? Lots of ways to do things. All right, so now I've got this trimmed down, and I can add it on the front. Now I'm going to sort of center it. I realize that the cover is larger, so there's going to be some orange showing here, but we're going to trim that out with some ribbon later. So it'll be covered up. That doesn't need to be a big concern. But again, if you use contact paper or you use something that's larger, you can cover your surface all the way if you want to. Adding on that glue again. I don't want to take it all the way to the outside because when I press it down, then the glue will squish out. It still does to some extent, but not like it would if you were right on the edge. Okie dokie. You can just slide it in there. And then I'm just going to press it down and press it into place. This is very easy to do. You know all the tricks if you've been here long enough. You know about squeegees, and you know about using credit cards or your driver's license or any hard surface like that to do the same trick, a rubber spatula, whatever you choose. But if you're new here, those are all really expensive ways to get the job done the same way. We want you to save your money while making it your own. All right, so now you can see it is not entirely flat. That's okay. I'm not upset about it. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue here on each of the corners. And if you wanted to go right down there, you could, right down that line with it. But my thought was it needs a little bit of room to be able to move when you open and shut it. So I'm just going to leave it with a little bit of a gap there. Now I'm going to use what was left of that paper, and I'm going to come in and line the where the paper edge would be on the box if that was actually paper. And then I'll just cut a straight edge on that, and I will use that on that inside piece. Now, because we have an area here where we're going to be putting a light, I need to be able to get to the switch to turn that on and off, but still kind of disguise it. So I'm going to just hold it with my hand, go up to the edge of where that box is, fold it, press it in place. I'm just doing that with my nail, if you can't see up there in that corner. Okay. Then I'll take my pencil and I'll just make a little line here, because part of this can be glued down and the other part is going to create a little flap. Double checking, because you know I don't want to get the ruler out. You know how it goes here. Okay, so now I know where I need to cut. Thank you to my channel members. Every little thing that you do counts, and it helps my channel to grow. So now I'm going to cut up to that little notch that I made. And now I'll be able to glue down the shorter piece to the back and have the larger piece as a flap. And I know you can barely see it, but you see now what I mean? Easy. And we'll just use a piece of Velcro in a minute, and that's what we're going to use to open and close it so we have access to the light switch box. We're going to go in here again with the same adhesive. And if you wanted to use a glue stick for this, that would probably work. Maybe even double-sided tape. Lots of ways to do things. Okay, so you can see what I've done here. If you're worried about it getting too gloppy or whatever, you can get a paintbrush and kind of move it around a little bit. It is thick though, it's thick. Not as thick as school paste, but a whole lot thicker than school glue. Okay, pressing everything down. We want to make it nice and smooth. If you get any residue, you want to get that off so you're not smearing it all over the top of your paper and discoloring it or lifting up the print. Some pieces of paper just have a print on the top and they'll come apart. Okay, now I've laid out some pieces here. I've chosen the ones that I think I want to use, and I've decided to use like wood blocks and wood pieces. These are like a larger Jenga, some little square pieces from Dollar Tree, some random little pieces of stuff that I pick up at the thrift store. You can see there's a variety of sizes and depths, and I'll show you here just to give you an idea of the different heights you can create by stacking them or using one at a time. Because I want to create some dimension, I don't want all of these glued down to the back of the box. If you choose to do it that way, it's totally fine. I have found that there's a lot more interest in a piece when you have some depth and dimension, which again, I know y'all are probably tired of hearing that, but it actually does create more shadow and lift, and it just gives it a little more whimsy, in my opinion. You can see the difference in the shadow around the edge. These are in different, different depths from the back. I'm just showing you here. I like to lay it all out first and then decide how I want to do it, where I want to put it. And look at the cute little folks over there in their Halloween outfits. We're going to say they're girls, but who knows? Who knows? The little Halloween fairies and creatures, and I think they're so cute. We're going to make them fly in a minute. Yes, we are. So now I'm going to make a decision. One of them's flat, one of them comes out a little further, and the other one comes out the most forward, and that's the one on the bottom. So almost like little stair steps. I want to be sure that I put these blocks on here where they can't be seen. And then when you glue them down in the box, you want to be sure that you only press where the blocks are. Don't push in the middle of your picture or you're going to make a dent in it. You don't want to do that. You worked really hard, right? You don't want to do that. Okay? If it's where it's close to your edge, you're going to go ahead and just paint that a darker color and it will recess and you won't be able to see it. You just want all your hardware showing. All right, so then I decided to add just a little bump there. You can see the shadow under the edge of it when you add that. You can use dots, you can use pieces of cardboard, and you can stack pieces of cardboard if you don't have little blocks or scraps of wood that you can use. Now I'm going to take my folk art antiquing wax and I'm going to put it on a finger dauber, but you can put this on like a little sponge brush or just on your fingertip if you're not afraid of it, you know, totally up to you. It washes off. In my opinion, I've never had a problem, but be sure that you test for allergies. I don't want to be responsible for your bobos, your bumps and lumps, right? No, because I love y'all and I want y'all to stay crafty, safe and crafty. Now I'm going around the edges of all of these pieces that I put in here. So you'll see me going around the houses and the buildings, and I'm also going to do the same to the little, our little Halloween folks over there. And this is just going to, when you do like a paper cutout, the sides of the paper cutout are white because the paper that it's printed on is white. Okay? If you go in there and you add a little bit of a wax or a darker color, or even were to take like a marker, a furniture repair marker or something and go around the edge, it just to me really helps the details pop instead of seeing that white around the edges. But this is a preference thing. You can do this or not do this. And if you don't want to use antiquing wax, or maybe you don't have it, you can definitely use a brown paint to get a similar look. Or if you really want to make it pop, you can go around it with black. I remember in school when I would color, I loved to color, and I would make the color really rich and dark so you couldn't see the paper through it. And I always wanted to trace it out with a thick black line. I don't know why I did that, but I just really liked it. And I guess that's carried through my whole life because that's the way I like things now. See the difference though? It's subtle. You can see it. Use your artistic eyes, y'all. Use your artistic eyes. If you get in an area that's really tight, like around the little turrets and things on there, and you can't get in there with your finger, grab a Q-tip. Put a little bit of it on a Q-tip, and you can get right in those little bitty spots. And you can do that with alphabet letters and things too if you can't get on the inside. All right, so double stick tape or a little bit of hot glue, which is what I used. Be sure that your control is where you can get to it on the top. You don't want to glue that down. And then I'm going to go around the entire inside of this box as far as I can go in one line. You might need to use two if your box is bigger, or if your line is shorter. You might have to use two. And you can certainly use white lights. You can use a copper line. You can use, you know, do what makes you happy. I guess I'm overstressing that now because it's just been one of those days, y'all. It's just been one of those days. But my channel is about making it my own, right? And I want you to make yours your own. And we have to do that by being creative, thinking outside of the box, and thinking what we can do that brings us some joy. And that's just really important to me today that you understand that. Okay? Because I love y'all. That's why. Even those of you who question me and don't understand my process, I still love you and wish you all the very, very best. Because when you comment or you view and then complain, it still helps my channel. So there's that. Yeah, there's that. All right, enough of that. Going around. You can tell it's on my mind, huh? I'm going to add just a little bit of glue and hold it in place, but you can use like a double stick mounting tape if you want to, as long as it is something that's clear so you don't see where you attach it. Unless you want to cover it, you can cover it with moss or something, which we do here shortly, and that will keep it all in place. Continue around all the way until you get as far as you can go. Mine is almost up to the box where the control is, which is awesome because I just love it when things work out that way by accident, but I did test it first to make sure it was going to be long enough. and you can tape that down or glue it down. You could also use something like E6000 if you wanted to, but the problem is you have to hold it for so long because the wire will kind of have a tendency to want to pop off, and you don't want that to happen, y'all. I want to say thank y'all because a lot of y'all have been following me for so many years, and you know that some of the things that you're seeing on my channel here are compilation and mega videos. These are obviously designed for people who like to watch a lot and binge a lot, and they're generally the people who have been subscribed to me for a long time and enjoy listening to me just talk and watch me do my thing. It's not for everybody. It's totally not for everybody, but this type of content helps my channel while I'm doing other things that are important too. So my kids are getting ready to go back to school, and I am their primary caregiver. Their father works away a month at a time, so it's just me and my babies here. And yeah, I still have to be a mom. You know, this is a full-time job for me, yes, but working from home is not as easy, I think, as some people assume that it is. It's really not. It's really not, because you can't just shut a door and not work, right? You got to keep going. You got to keep going through all the noise and through all the sicknesses and boredom and grocery runs. Y'all know how it is, right? Y'all know how it is. But I do thank you for staying with me, and there are some scattered Halloween videos here and there that are new. So be sure you go back and you look at that stuff if you're interested in that. And also, my kids will be starting back to school tomorrow, which means that I will have more time to create. So I'm so excited. Brand new Halloween is coming your way. All right, so we did the little girls, same way that we did the houses, just different heights because it's going to look like some of them are closer to us and some of them are further back. And I'm just going to make those look like they're flying. So then I thought, well, what about a little Dollar Tree Halloween tree or a pick or a branch? So these are from Temu, these black branches. And if you don't have these or you don't want to use that company, that's totally okay. You can look for black floral branches anywhere you want, or you can take a green branch that you have and spray paint it. Totally do that. And I decided that maybe I would make these look a little bit more whimsical by having them be almost like tree houses. Wouldn't that be cool? And it's definitely something you wouldn't expect. And I like that in my crafts. And I know that if you're here to watch me, that you like those unexpected things too. So I'm just going to decide where I want to put these and lay them out. And how cool is that there's a tree in the box with them? I can put some in the front and some behind, again, causing more, it allows more depth and dimension. And what that does is keeps your eye tracking. It keeps your eye moving, which keeps your brain kind of going, activated, watching, paying attention. And I love that in art, and I love that in crafts because it keeps you looking at something, almost like you see something new every time. And to me, that just makes it more whimsical and fun. And I hope that you feel the same way when you watch my videos. That they're a little bit different. They're not, you know, they're a little different. Okay, so now I can move these branches around. They're wire in the middle, but they're kind of plasticky toward the outside, so they can be torn or cut or clipped apart, which is easy enough to do. Oh my goodness, y'all, I love this. And now having the little ladies looking like they're flying around or climbing around or lounging in the trees. So cute. We're going to get those girls in place. Cute. She's cute. She looks like the moon. I know it's kind of hard with the focus right now to see, but she looks like her face is like the full moon. We're going to stand her up over here. And then we're going to put this little one up here in the trees because she sort of reminds me of a bat, the way her ears look. Or they could be wings, who knows. Now, if you want to give it a little more whimsy, you can cut these pieces off with a wire cutter. And you could trace all the way around the inside. Or you could trace around, you know, put them where your lights are. Now, it's going to dim your lights a little bit if you cover them up. But it would work. I think it would work and be very cute. I'll take an orange ribbon. I've got a variety of different ones, and this is the one I chose. And then using that same type bond, I'm just going to make a little line here. And this, rather than being a piece of paper that could potentially tear or not give, using a fabric ribbon is going to help. Number one, it's going to disguise the edges where the paper overlaps and it's not totally covered. And it's going to allow a little more bend where the lid closes down onto the box. And if you want to use hot glue on this, you can, but I'll tell you why I didn't. Because usually when you use hot glue under a fabric, you can see the lines. It's not smooth, it's kind of bumpy. So that's why I did this, but I still ended up with a little bit of bumpiness, but that's okay. It's all right. It's supposed to look old, and so I'm okay with that. Now I'm just turning the corner over on itself to make a little sharp edge, and since that Titebond is still wet, you can pull it down just a little, and you may have to watch it a few times to get that turn. It's hard with my camera angle to really show that. I've shown it in other videos, but you're just going to turn it over on itself. Oh, my arm's in the way, I'm sorry, y'all. And go down and press it, and just making sure that it's lined up so it's not crooked. And then a little bit of hot glue in the fold where it wraps over, and it kind of frames it a little bit. If I would have waited for my Titebond to dry, it would have been better and more smooth, but you know, I got to get y'all these videos out, so that's why I'm continuing on with the wet underneath it. I know you get it. I know you get it. When you got a lot to do, my life is no different than yours, right? We've all got kids and grandkids and jobs and responsibilities and homes and chores and excuses, right? We do. But I hope things are getting better for y'all too. All right, so now I'm going to trim out the inside bottom of the box just because I felt like I want to use the same piece, same type of ribbon here. And for this, I'll just use a little bit of hot glue because I'll be moving really quickly. It's the bottom of the box and you're not likely to see it. So I'll just tap that on there and then fold it over. Tap, 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 trim it off where you need to trim it off. Look at me with no eyebrows. How about that? Just doing my thing over there with no eyebrows. Anyone else? Anyone? Anyone who are deprived of eyebrows? It's okay though. It's part of being a redhead, I think, for me. And then when you age, you know, they tend to leave you too. Yeah, they do. My goodness, my goodness. All right. And then on the top, I'm going to do this too, but I'll do it a little bit differently. So I'm going to apply it over the top of that goldish looking color that's already there and tap it down. And then when I flip the box over, I'll add a little more just right along the edge of it and then trim the rest off rather than folding it up because I don't want that to see once I have got the box closed. And I certainly don't want to create any more bulkiness that may make the box pop open. Now, the box does somewhat have a little gap when it's closed, but it did before when I got it to. So if you want to get some type of a latch to put on there or a band to put around it, you can certainly do that. But since mine's going to be displayed open, that's really not a concern of mine. So I just trimmed it off. Okay. Now I know I need to work on my flap for my light. So this is the only Velcro I could find. I have thinner and I have less strong. Don't pay any attention to the strength of the Velcro. You just need some hook and loop. And I think you can still get this at Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut a very thin piece that is going to fit both on my paper and on the edge of the box alongside of my control. Did y'all notice my nails were peach and now they are kind of a purple color? That's how long I've been working on the project, trying to get it finished. I mean, the summertime, y'all, the summertime. But I'm so happy with it. I love it. So I'm just going to press that down, and there's the top and the bottom still together on there, and I will press that paper into it. Press, press, press so that the adhesive on there will catch. And then I've got to do it again. Keep pushing and keep pushing. And you can also glue it on if you need to, but after I gave it a chance to set up, it worked just fine. Grab another one of those branches, and I am going to cut some sections off. And this way we can use one pick for more than one little section. We can cut it down and have short trees if we want to. And this is going to create even more dimension, like we're looking through something mystical and magical. The bottom has a wire, so I'm going to use a wire to cut that. And then you can trim as much as you want. You can make them tall in the front. You can just put them all in the back if you don't want any toward the front. But I like the idea of adding a little bit. And I'm just playing around to make sure that I'm able to see all the good stuff through there. Look, the little moon lady is peeking out. I'm making sure that I cut this short enough and flat enough that it will sit up against the side of the box. See the difference there? And I want to make sure that I have enough pieces of the branch that stick out that will allow me to put them flat up against the box and add the hot glue. Once I add the hot glue here, you're going to see me move quicker than I actually move. I actually hold that until it turns like a milky color, because it is clear when it's wet. It starts to turn milky, then it is set up, and that's what you want it to do, because I don't want these to pop off, and they will try to pull away because they're not flat. But there's our little tree there. Now we can kind of manipulate it a little bit. And if you have a branch that's got wire in it, just use your wire cutters so you don't mess your scissors up. And you can cut off any pieces that are in the way or that are obscuring your view in any way. So keep in mind, you can do your branches upside down as well. If you wanted to do some like an overhang from a tree, and you can do them sideways. It's just a variety of ways that you could do this. Now I trim away a little bit. Add some more pieces on here. Add on the bottom and sort of toward the bottom corner too, and then a little bit on the branch on the top, and hold those in place for a couple of minutes, and then move on to the next little section. And you can add as much as you want. Totally up to you. That's up to your discretion. And you can use branches that have flowers or leaves, or you could use eucalyptus, or you could use vines. There's so many ways to make it your own. So far, so good. Now we need to work on the bottom. Got to have something down here. I've got a little bit of Spanish moss, and then these are scraps of moss that I've used in other projects. This is like the green moss that you get on the ground, and you can buy those at Dollar Tree, and they're already preserved. So I'm going to take a little bit of the Spanish moss, and I'm going to sort of wrap it around in these branches, and I'll also add like a dot of hot glue here and there after I get it all wrapped around. So I think I'll leave that in so you can see what I'm doing. You could also use probably a little bit of super glue if you wanted to, just to dot it down. Or you could make webs with your glue gun if you wanted to make it look webby if you don't have moss. That would also be nice. You can put spiders in your trees, or you can put butterflies or moths or the little bug packs. You could do that in there if you wanted to. A little more moss here and there. These are just all the little extras that, you know, some people might not feel as necessary, and that's okay. You know, if you were ready to leave it the way it is, you know, 3 steps ago, then that's okay. Right? That is totally okay. I'm continuing along here. And no, the house is not floating over her head. We're assuming that it's on a hill back there somewhere. All right, so to put down this loose moss, I'll get it in a minute. I'm just going to use Mod Podge for this. The Mod Podge is thinner. Like I said, the Type Bond is a lot thicker, and I need something that I can make thin enough that I can apply this moss into, and that will dry quickly. And the Mod Podge works very well for that. So I'm even going over the top of the line. It doesn't matter to me that I'm going over that. It's going to be covered too, and it's going to be a thin enough layer in there that you're still going to see the lights twinkling underneath, so it is totally fine. You can use felt or fabric or sand. You can use little pebbles. You can use those black stones that you get from Dollar Tree. You can use any variety of any type of whatever you want down there. You could draw little bricks on there if you wanted to, or cobblestones, or whatever you want, right? And then I'm just going to take my fingers and press straight down into the Mod Podge in the places that the moss is. And if my finger gets wet, then I know that's a spot that's going to need a little bit more moss. I love the messy stuff. Love a messy crafter. So we're just going to tap out what's left, and then there's the bottom. Nice. I like that. And I think it goes along really well with this kind of carnival looking thing with the stripes and the creepy carnival. Oh, I love it. I'll take a little bit more of that moss because I'm almost out and just sort of ball it up between my fingers and put it along the base of these trees or where the trunks are, just for a little something extra. Make it maybe look like the moss is climbing up, or it's growing in a messy yard or a messy field. We're peeking through that field to see everything back there on the hill. Then if you have any little embellishments, like I believe these came from Dollar Tree in the fall section last year, you can use something like that. A little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to press it down hard enough that it goes through the moss and down into the box. Because if you just put it on the moss and the moss starts to shift or flake off from the weight, then you're going to lose it and you'll have a bald spot. This is a bell that I got from Temu. I wanted to use a little pumpkin, but I couldn't find a plain one. All I had was glittery ones. So I'm going to use what I have. I'm going to use this little bell right here. I will go in, and I do not recall if I actually show you the steps of me aging that. All I do is add a little bit of that wax on top of it. That's it. Okay, now we're going to work on the inside cover because I thought it would be really nice to have a surprise in there, and I chose to use Spooky Greetings. It's got a little wire hanger on here. And then in that pack, there was a little clock. It's like an old Victorian looking clock. I'm going to go around the edges with that. I'm going to go around the edges of our sign too with the wax. So everything looks the same. I'll pop that down. It doesn't even have to be the middle. Totally up to you where you put it. You can put more houses, stickers, cutouts, whatever you want on the inside door if you want to, or the inside cover. That's up to you. I'll take some pop-ups. I've had these for ages, and you can see what brand they are, so you can get them anywhere. And then I'm going to take 2 of those, and they're sort of foamy. They're going to give me just a tiny bit of lift, but I'm not looking for a lot on this. So it's totally up to you. If you wanted to use something as large as a bead, you could. This isn't actually going to be holding this, but we want to give the illusion that it is holding the sign up, or like the sign is hanging around it, but it's not really. Again, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue because my stickers happen to be old and they're a little bit dry. And I'll put it on the top, and it looks like the clock is holding the sign, doesn't it? Cute. Could have left all my little glue webs on there, but I pulled them off because I want to add a little bit of moss. So we'll embellish that. We want to embellish the inside and the outside. So we'll get that all lined out, and just really on the top. Just on the top. If you're looking for ways to preserve moss, there are lots of useful documents and videos that you can find on YouTube about how to do any of that. I'm not an authority on it. I do things my own way, but by all means, do your research, okay? A little more dimension here. I'm going to add a spider on top of the spider. You can use rings, like the little spider rings you get from Dollar Tree or from any store that you can put in treat bags. You see the ones down there in the corner? Those are just a pack of black, white, and orange rings. Then I have the rings that have the stones that came from Dollar Tree. I'm going to take a permanent marker and go along the white, because my Velcro was white and not black, and just trace over that. It kind of puts a little layer of black on it so that you won't be able to see that white shine through there. And then I'll clean it up a little bit. I'm going to use that finger dauber again and some antiquing wax, and I'm going to go all along the edge where that meets what would be the inner pages of the book. So that little trimmed area there. And then I'll just continue that color up and down in there to make it look a little more grungy and old. This is movable until it dries, so if you make a little mess with antiquing wax, you can go back over it, you know, a little damp, very damp, I mean a very lightly damped cloth, and you can take care of that. You can also go over your curves and your corners, and if you wanted to go over the ribbon, you could do that. Totally up to you. Look. Oh my goodness, I love this, and I can't wait to make some more little carnival things with my leftovers. I hope that y'all like this one, and if you're interested in seeing more in this theme, please let me know in the comments, because like I said, I've got several more of these that I can use so that we can make like a set, or you know, a little area that we can decorate with all of these things. Look at the moss in the corner. I gotta shake that out. Don't worry, I do shake it out. I made a mess. Messy crafter. Shake it out, shake it out. And there we are again. And it does close and open easily. You can use your lights on flashing. I just didn't do that. Didn't show you the flashing mode because I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. And I know that flashing lights can cause problems for people. So I just have it on solid here. And I'm not concerned with the fact that the wires are showing. If you are, feel free to disguise yours in any way that you would like. You can even wrap it with moss if you wanted to. Spooky greetings. Carnival decor. These are so cute. Which one of those three little ladies do you think is the cutest? I'm kind of liking those striped tights on top, I have to tell you. I think maybe she's my favorite, the one on the top. So here it is, just sort of displayed like it would be, you know, sitting out at your house in the daytime. This is how it would look. And it's so full of whimsy. I love that the moss is added on there too to look kind of old and creepy. Now you can see her little face. She's so cute. You can see all the little goodies in there, and there's so many other options. You could do different themes for this box. If you like monsters or the Nightmare Before Christmas, there's so many different ways. And here's the other side. Please, 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 if you are new to my channel, subscribe, comment, like. I'm hoping that this video, here it is in the dark now, is enough to get you curious about what I have to offer on this channel. And I am all about some Halloween, so get ready. Buckle up, because it's coming. Check out this little rectangle next. I thank you for stopping by. I'll see you soon. Bye.